I have been traveling like, almost all my life, working, and the past 20 years, a lot of it in Eastern Europe, Russia, Thailand. And what I've seen it, I've been working with lots of companies, but I've also come across a lot of poverty in Russia and in Thailand. And when you see the poverty, you realize that the schools are poor, the kids are poor, the teachers have a poor education, and that made me think. In the 1990s, people started talking about the digital divide as the divide between those who are using and learning to use computers and internet and those who don't. And there was an increasing concern that this would be like the new illiteracy, people who can and cannot. And the ones left behind will be then left behind in terms of increasing and accumulating their knowledge and skills. My argument was that if you want to help and bridge the divide, maybe you should think about going to the edge of the divide. Why not try to set up a project in a village rather than a university in the capital of a country? I had some colleagues in Europe, Sweden. We went to Thailand, we went to Laos to discuss it. We discussed this in Europe. But we didn't find anybody interested in sponsoring some pilot project. So then I said to myself, already having a house in Thailand, okay, setting up a number of simple projects, testing how kids in a village can learn to use computers, to learn something else, wouldn't be too expensive. See, quite simply, we got together some computers. We installed them in an orphan home for boys, the #1 project. Started working there. Then the director of an orphan home for girls nearby came and asked us if we could do the same project there. And then we already had in mind we wanted to test the same sort of thing in a village. So we brought some computers to a village too. And the whole idea, the objective of this, was then to prove through this simple pilot project that a low-cost project to help kids to learn works, and that we could go back to aid organizations, suggest them to set up similar projects in other countries, other places. We call those projects IT in Isan, because Isan is the northeast of Thailand, the poor part of Thailand. So that was a useful, suitable place to test it. And that is how I met Toto, because I was talking to people here and there, and I wanted a local person. I talked to him, and compared to many people, his English was so-so, but I quickly realized that this guy is very, very interested in computers. So I asked him if he would be interested in working more on this, and eventually I decided that he's probably the right guy when he basically confiscated my computer.
Okay, I'm Toto. I was born at Isan, a farmer's son, a village, and I'm a current farmer. The first project we set up once Sven got the computers, so we set up at the orphanage, home for boys outside of Nong Khai. Our computer at that time is very, with second-hand computer and not very powerful, so we can run like a simple office program, and we decided to use like PowerPoint, because PowerPoint has more stuff in it, like you can type, you can insert photo, you can make sound animation.
I told Toto, if you are prepared to learn how to make a website, I can write some content for you, and then we see if it works. If it works, we can be more independent, we don't have to wait for funding. And that is the moment IT in Isan changed to Openmind projects. So we decided to have a place of our own, a training center. The first one was not where we are now. It was like in a little soil. 3 small houses, very tight, simple style. And volunteers would really have to accommodate and get used to village life already then. That was even simpler than we are now. The trainees who stay here long term, they get used, of course they improve their English and IT, but they get used to work in a more like westernized or modern organization. They come from rural villages, their parents are farmers, There's no such thing as a work organization. Planning. Planning is like a word that doesn't really exist for our friends. A plan might be more like an objective and intent to do something, but not necessarily a plan as we see it, a plan that is to be done and implemented. So actually I think that is one very important thing for our long-term trainees, for them to learn to work in an organization with people who have plans, the volunteers, and to expect the plans to be followed. This is an interesting culture clash too sometimes, because the volunteers will have to learn too. That Thai people are not used, especially rural village people, not used to working this way. There's one more thing we really encourage, and we want to help our students and trainees. That is to think, critical thinking. The rote learning system as practiced in most parts of Southeast Asia, or Asia even, is not really conducive to thinking. It's more conducive to learning by heart and repeating. So we want people to learn to think and be able to solve problems. And we accept, therefore, that people make mistakes, because we prefer sometimes to give people a task without telling them exactly what to do, how to do it, because we want them to think. In that case, we have to accept too that they make mistakes. But when you make a mistake, you can learn too. Our major challenge right now is how can we spread this to more people? And this is where we are facing some challenges in terms of mainly, of course, resources constraints. Our center relies entirely on volunteer donations, and it really served us very well over the years. However, things are getting a bit old now, and we would really need to have more computers, better computers. We'd like to improve the living conditions, the furniture, for the people staying here, trainees, children, volunteers, maybe even get more space for them. Unfortunately, we cannot do that through volunteer donations only. So if you would like to help us in any way, you would be more than welcome to do so. We can use any contribution, be it financial or object donation. We believe it's for a good cause, and they really make an impact in someone's life. Thank you.